You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4, and today we are on stage at Headliners in downtown Nanaimo because this is the venue for an upcoming show from Western Edge Theatre, The Ecstasy and the Agony, and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, starring Frank Moher. That's on the agenda today on Go. Today on Go, 22 years of building confidence through horsemanship in Arrington. How much debt do you have? And repopulating our region with Gary oak trees. That and more today on Go.
I love technology. And of all the kinds of technology in the world that I love the kind that comes from Apple the best. Because I am an Apple aficionado, an Apple partisan, an Apple fanboy, a worshiper in the cult of Mac. I have been to the house of Steve Jobs. I have knelt before his throne. I have walked the stations of his cross. And some of you, who may also be a member of this religion, may know how difficult it is at times not to stray. And I have wandered on occasion. I have indulged in the Linux heresies. And in the late 90s, I did sleep with a Windows system or two. But then again, who didn't really?
That is a short excerpt from The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, starring Frank Moher. It looks like it's going to be a fabulous show. There was a whole bunch of Facebook chatter the other day that any show with Frank in it has got to be a must-see show. Aww. And when you're talking about technology that has to do with our beloved Apple, it's a do not miss. It'll run here at Headliners from October 26th, 27th, and 28th. We're going to throw things over now to Derek Johnstone. For 22 years, the Arrington Therapeutic Riding Association has been helping to build confidence for people who are challenged with mental and physical disabilities. You're watching Go Island. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. I'm Kate Berg, and this is Frank Moher. He is the artistic director of Western Edge Theatre and also the star of The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, coming to Headliners October 26th, 27th, and 28th. Evil, good evil, good evil. That's the basis of the show, the good and the bad side of Steve Jobs?
Well, I guess so. It's sort of a more a fanboy's take on Steve Jobs and Apple as he goes on a journey and discovers some things he didn't know about both Steve Jobs and Apple and the way our technology in general is made.
Mm-hmm. Now, this show is about 2 years old, started in the States, and received a little bit of flack from the House of Mac themselves.
Well, yes, it did. I mean, two things happened. It was really the first vehicle to bring forward some information about where Apple products, and those of a lot of other technology companies, are made over in China at a place called Foxconn, where some labor practices are really sort of reminiscent of 19th century England, but just in a very 21st century way, sort of, you know, workhouses essentially creating technology. But the other thing that happened with this show is it was revealed earlier this year that the writer of it, Mike Daisey, who also had performed it for about 18 months at that point, he'd made up some details in the story for storytelling purposes, but he got called out on this, partly because he did some of the show on National Public Radio, and so all of a sudden he wasn't in a theater context anymore, he was in a journalistic context. So there was a big outcry about that, and I think Apple sort of went, yes. But what he did is he stepped back, he revised the script, taking out any of the contested stuff. It's still just as funny and as powerful as ever. And we'll actually be the first company in Canada to be doing the revised version, because it really was only released a few weeks ago. Fabulous.
Now, people do have a love relationship with their Apple products. I was looking for my phone earlier, and it's on top of the iPad, which kind of says a lot. But and they don't get tarnished that often. Is there a sensationalist kind of, well, the golden apple has been bruised or something, you know?
The golden apple, so to speak, yeah. Well, I think he probably picked Apple because I think he was, or probably still is to some extent, genuinely an Apple fanboy. But I think it's also, they are the leader, and so if they can be made to change their ways, then I think he thinks the rest of the companies will follow.
Okay, we'll be back with more from The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs with Frank Moher, a production coming up from Western Edge Theatre here at Headlines. There's a very limited run for the shows. We'll tell you how to get tickets later. Now, buying these products, whether it's Apple or not, might put you in debt. We're going to throw things over now to James Green, who looks at the Canadian debt load. Still ahead, it's a matter of when, not if, the big one will hit. Planting thousands of Gary Oaks in the Comox Valley and in the kitchen with our island chef. That and more still ahead on Go. I'm actually kind of proud to say that my personal debt load is definitely under control, but if you look over on the asset side, there's not a whole lot there either. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. I think Frank Moher has something that he'd like to share with us, and we're going to give him that opportunity later in this edition of Go. Today we are looking at The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, starring Frank Moher, running through Western Edge here at Headliners. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
So I head out of the hotel with my translator, and we get into a taxi, and we head into the downtown of Shenzhen. Shenzhen is like Blade Runner, threw up on itself. Neon, LEDs, and 14-story high video screens covered in crappy Chinese advertising. It's everything they told us the future would be. And we get to the edge of the core of Shenzhen, and we come to the gates. Because 31 years ago, when Deng Xiaoping carved off this sector of China with his little red marker, he said, "This will be our special economic zone." And he made a deal with the corporations. He said, "Listen, use our people. Do anything you want with our people. Just give us a modern China." And the corporations took that deal, and they squeezed, and they squeezed, and the result is the Shenzhen we find today. So we get past the gates, and we're in the factory zone, and whoa, everything changes. It's like going from the Eloy to the Morlocks. All the roads have bypasses. All the bypasses have bypasses. There are bypasses all the way down. I swear, I see buildings being thrown up on one side while they're being torn down on the other. And we head up onto an elevated expressway under a silver poisoned sky. Because the air in Shenzhen, look, in Hong Kong, the air is not good, but in Shenzhen, you can actually feel it, like a booted foot being pressed on your chest. But it's amazing what people can get used to, isn't it? Because after a few days, you hardly notice it at all.
And on the flip side, we are so used to our gadgets, and that was a short excerpt from The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, starring Frank Moher from Western Edge Theatre. It is a presentation of Western Edge. It'll take place here at Headliners on October 26th, 27th, and 28th, and it's food for thought. Where does your gadget come from, and do you really want to know? Maybe we don't want to know. Information sometimes is not always good for morality. We're going to throw things down now to Victoria on Thursday, October the 18th at 10:18 a.m. People across BC, whether you were at work, at school, in your car, or at home, were encouraged to drop, duck, and hold on. Drop, cover, and hold on. It was all part of the BC Earthquake Alliance Society's Shakeout BC. Nikki Iwanishin looked at what would happen in Victoria if there was an earthquake. And of course, they say it's not a matter of if, but when our region will be struck with a large-scale earthquake. And I'm sure the situation in Nanaimo would not be much different than that in Victoria, depending, of course, on where the epicenter is. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. This is Frank Moher of Western Edge Theatre. He is the star of The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs that runs at Headliners here October 26th, 27th, 28th. Can't get those dates out enough. Who's the show for, do you think?
Well, the show is really funny. Like, I don't want people to get the idea that they're in for sort of something that's good for you, even though it is. But it's a very entertaining show. So to that extent, it's just for people who want a good laugh. But I think it reaches everybody. It's for geeks, it's for people who love technology like I do, maybe like you do, but who maybe need to think a little more deeply about where that technology is coming from and the effect it has on all of us. But I also think it's for people who hate technology, all those people who say, I'm a Luddite, and they're proud of it, who say, well, I don't even know what Facebook is, and they're proud of it. Because frankly, this is going to confirm that, to some extent, they're right.
What about for those who just think that Steve Jobs and Apple can do no wrong? Is this a show that's going to offend them, do you think?
Yeah, I think it confronts Apple fanboys like the author with some things they'd rather not think about. But already, because the play's been out there going on 2 years now, it's already actually forced some change upon Apple and the other tech companies as well. So I think it's achieving what it set out to do. And I think, in fact, Apple is becoming a better company as a result.
Great example of the role that arts can play in making change.
Yeah, fantastic. People say you can't change the world with the arts, you can't change the world with theater. Nonsense, and this proves it.
Okay, a not to miss a show taking place here at Headliners October 26th, 27th, and 28th, The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs. We're going to throw things now over to the Comox Valley. There is a man there who is dedicated to bringing Gary oak trees back to the region. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. I'm Kate Berg, and that's Frank Moher. He is starring in The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs here at Headliners, and he's loud in the process, and he's loud on stage and fabulous. It runs October 26th, 27th, and 28th. And one of the great things about this venue is that it's cabaret style. You get to sit at your table. Can you have a drink while you're watching the show, Frank?
Non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic. You can have a soft beverage and a snack while you're watching the show. And speaking of snacks, a master at his craft is our island chef, Michael Williams. I have yet to fulfill my self-made promise of inviting Michael to my house for dinner one day. You're watching Go Island on Shaw TV Channel 4. We've had a fantastic time hanging out with Frank Moher from Western Edge Theatre. Their upcoming show, The Agony and the Ecstasy of Steve Jobs, is a fundraiser for Western Edge. There are only 3 performances, one on a Friday night, one on a Saturday night, and one on the Sunday afternoon. The best thing to do is buy tickets online. You can also phone them, and Frank carries around the box office in his pocket. So come on out, support Western Edge. Thanks for watching this edition of Go Island. We'll see you next time.